Shabbat shalom, everyone. I probably don't need quite this much mic in the room because there's such an intimate crowd gathering tonight, shall we say. It is good to be with all of you on this cold, icy night when we get to actually warm each other with our company and with the lights of Shabbos. This is an unusual Shabbat in that it's what we call a totally text, which I realized we should probably put a definition of on the website so that you all don't have to guess what that means. But it's code for Beth's not here. And while most of our services are song-based and about singing into Shabbos together, about leaning into each other through our voices, and we will have some time for that. The fact that we are missing Beth tonight, she is in Israel. She's going to come back and she's going to update us on the political situation from her experience. She's been going to a bunch of the rallies and learning a tremendous amount on the ground about what it feels like there. So we look forward to hearing from her, I don't know, maybe next week about it. But because if I sing a song or a prayer 3 times, you're going to walk out by time number 2. What we're going to do, you got to know I'm making fun of myself. It's okay. We'll talk about the choir teacher who told me to mouth the words one day, and you'll all understand what happened. They lied. Well, I didn't have the confidence to know that at the time, but what it leaves me, which is exciting for me, is it leaves me the opportunity to share with you my joy in delving into the Torah portion a little more deeply. Because what happens is on Monday, I read the portion for the first time in the week. And on Tuesday, I start digging for commentaries. And on Wednesday, my branches are going a million different directions. And Thursday, I sort of get an idea in my head about what Friday might look like. And Friday, I bring you this much of what I've had the joy of experiencing for the week. And it's an honor and a joy to bring that to you every week. But this is exciting to me also because you get to do the branching bit with me a little bit. Anybody who's studied text with me knows I always have this idea we're going to get through a lot. We always get through this much. But that's because the commentary is so good that we don't need a lot to do a lot to feel like we've learned a lot. So it's going to be a little bit of a start and stop service. It's going to feel a little different tonight. We're going to study a little text. We're going to welcome Shabbat with candles. We're going to study a little text. We're going to pray a little bit. We're going to study a little text. We're going to pray a little bit more. So that'll be the sort of feel of it. It's pretty unusual. In past totally texts, I've lumped all the text work together. So I don't know, I got creative this week and thought, ooh, we can weave it throughout. We'll see. It could be super fun because I tried to weave the pieces of the texts in a way that informs the prayers we're about to say. Those connections might be tighter in my head than in reality, as is occasionally the case, in which case it'll just be interesting text, and then we'll do a little praying and singing. Because I am not Beth, I need you to sing with me in full voice. I am going to be listening for Amy for the first note, which is what I often do. I'm actually usually listening for Beth, but I'm going to listen for Amy here. And we are going to join each other and carry each other in prayer and in learning. To me, when either of those is done well, you sort of forget what else is happening. You get so involved in the activity that you don't notice time or the cold or what note you're not hitting. So I invite you as we learn, as we sing, as we pray, as we light, just to let yourself go deep in, let your mind wander. Enjoy this gift of time together in community. This portion that we are learning is called Terumah, which means gifts. I read one commentary that called it the most boring section of the Bible. I didn't think it was fair, but you'll tell me at the end. But it is a gift to have this time with all of you today, and I couldn't be more delighted. So we're going to start in text, because it is totally text, right? And then we're going to light candles and have some time together. But I'm going to invite the first text up onto our screens if we can. All right, we're in Exodus 25, verses 1 through 8. You have 1 through 6 here. And I am going to read them just for the sake of miking, and then we can dive in together. And the Eternal spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak unto the children of Israel, that they may take for me an offering, and every man whose heart makes him willing, ye," that's how you know I'm pulling from the internet, "ye shall take my offering. And this is the offering which ye shall take of them: gold and silver and brass and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goat's hair." What's not exciting about this? That's my question. "And ram skins dyed red, and seal skins and acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil and for the sweet incense, onyx stones, and stones to be set for the ephod and for the breastplate. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them." Okay, that's the whole first section of our Torah portion. I'm going to ask Dan, will you flip back one? Yeah, there you go. Never mind. He's reading my mind. I'm sorry, that's a scary place to be. Yes, so here's the first two verses that I want us to spend a little bit of time on. "And the Eternal spoke to Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they may take for me an offering, and every man whose heart makes him willing, ye shall take my offering." What thoughts, questions, other than the Old English, do you have about this text?
It's not a tax.
It's not a tax. Explain that. It's not a tax. Explain that a little more.
So it's an offering, i.e., you're moved to give to the temple, to creating the temple as a community.
Right. So this is not your membership dues, for lack of a better model to begin with, but instead this is what? It's a gift. It's just a gift. Imagine that. Anybody whose heart so moves him, let him bring a gift. And what kinds of gifts did we have? Do you remember? You don't have to remember exactly. You could just generally. There's a seal skin, right? A seal skin. Gold and silver, right? So we're talking fancy gifts, right? Was it fancy gifts?
Why is it she'll take my offering instead of she'll give me?
Yeah, so why the take and not the give verb is an interesting question. So we have these fancy gifts that are given or taken. Two different words.
Is it taken by like the Levites or something?
Yeah, it's taken by those who are going to build this. Very good. And they can bring you all of these different things, right? They can bring you gold, they can bring you silver, they can bring you sealskin. Is it sealskin?
Goat hair, yeah.
Okay, so goat hair is an interesting one. Goat hair is really interesting. Who has goat hair? Say it again.
Sweaters.
Sweaters. You can make sweaters out of goat hair. I think this might be goat hair, actually. But is goat hair silver or gold?
But it's still expensive.
So it's something of value, but there are levels in this value. right? There's this long list that's offered to you, all the way up to gold, but maybe even all the way to goat hair, which may be a more accessible gift. Well, yes, it's cashmere, right? So it's not a nothing gift, right? It's a gift, but it's not gold, and it's not seal skin, or I think I've seen it translated as dolphin skin a couple of times. So it's not the most unusual item. It's something that is theoretically somewhat accessible. So they have this list that says, make me a sanctuary, build me a thing. We're not quite sure what that thing is yet. And everybody who wants to, but only if they really want to, should participate in the building of that thing. And we're going to make it so that it's somehow specific, but also available to everybody within the community, right? We have this hierarchy of things that are going to be accessible to everybody within the community. And Rashi points out that this is a really interesting idea about what it means to be in community. That when we're building the sanctuary here, this sanctuary, this portable sanctuary that's going to be the heart of the communal and religious experience for the Israelites, that we have to understand that from every person whose heart moves him means, for example, that the laver, which is, like a spoon kind of thing, was made from the mirrors of the dedicated women, and as a result, it assumed the character of those mirrors. So what that means is, Rashi is talking about a ritual called the Sota ritual, which is actually a pretty problematic ritual. But it's a ritual where a woman who was accused of adultery would be required to drink a specific liquid concoction to test whether she had been adulterous or not, which I guess is a step forward over just believing her husband, right? Let's assume it, right? And the thing that she's going to drink out of was made from the mirrors of the women who made offerings to build this shrine. And so Rashi says, every gift has a way of meeting a need. This ritual of the Sota, which is going to be far into the future and hasn't been enacted yet, and is going to require that a society sort of look at itself and say, is it working or is it not? That we're going to build it from a mirror, and a mirror that the women gave. And so Rashi says there is this idea literally built into what we build it with, that says that each person's gift has a meaning and a value and is necessary for the function of the community.
The gift becomes a reflection of the community.
Right. So this is the literal, the gift becomes a reflection of the community, and what the community gives becomes necessary for the functioning of the shrine, so that there's this back and forth between them. Annie, it looks like you're thinking, no? Aaron?
I have a question.
Yeah, ask.
So since this is largely about building a community, I think it's optional.
So,
Not based on needs. Needs I can understand. You can't afford it, you can't afford it. They're making it optional.
So there are 3 different kinds of truma, of gifts or taxes. And Beth, I think, was hinting at this with her earlier comment. Some of them are required and are based on income. Some of them are required and are universal across the community. And this one is the only optional. So why is this one the only optional one?
I don't have an answer.
Melissa,
I was gonna say, how does this one compare to the others that are not optional?
so there's some idea that the building of this structure, of this communal institution is so sacred that it has to be set, although the functioning and the continuation of the community can go through sort of a tax-like system, that somehow this is different. That there's something as represented in this physical building is a requirement of a gift of the heart.
I think they want to just carry a link of feelings that people will build a brand or have to do their best and see us against. With that, my question is there any midrash about people who didn't have it at the time together? You know, like what happened to those?
They got written out of the system. No, I have no idea. I don't know if there are any midrash about the people who didn't decide to give. I could go dig for it. It seems like a good one, and if there isn't, I think you should write it. But it's a good question, and I think this idea that somehow the community is so sacred, and the thing that is represented by this building is so sacred that it can't be tainted by requirement or ill feelings is a really interesting idea. And it reminds me, I will admit, a little bit of this up here on our walls. And I always, whenever I'm giving people tours of the sanctuary, I always talk about how little gold we have in our sanctuary. But how one of the things that we have in gold is this idea that the community doesn't exist without each person who is sitting in the community offering of themselves, right? And that idea goes back as far as Exodus and the building of the first sanctuary. I don't think it was exactly intentional, but I don't think it was accidental that a Jewish community 2,500 years later put that idea in gold and sanctuary walls. That there is this idea that from the gold to the acacia wood to the goat's hair to the mirrors, each gift that any one person gives becomes necessary in the system. The foundation of the building of these societies. So we're going to continue. All right, we got to this. Let's skip that. We're going to talk a little bit about a gift that's being given right now, which is, this is the year anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine. And there are Holocaust survivors who are living through the torments of war all over again. And I think many people think, I don't know how to help. I don't know what to give. And we thought we would bring you the voice of a community member who is giving when possible to those who are living through this dark time again. So Melissa, I'm going to ask you, if you would, to stand up and read this story, this voice from Ukraine of Stella B. And I'm going to give you this. Don't wander away. Don't wander away from me. We're tethered, literally tethered. You're stuck with me now.
If I wasn't volunteering, I'd go crazy. When the crisis began, everything changed. We had to do everything all at once, do whatever was needed. We packed boxes of food, we answered calls from people asking for help, for evacuation assistance, for supplies, even diapers and baby formula. There were hundreds or thousands of those calls during the first part of the conflict. But as difficult as it was, it taught us to work quickly. to communicate fast and efficiently, and we did. We worked fast and nonstop. Our elderly people have faced this situation before, and us volunteers were important to them. They needed us to distract them from the crisis, if only online over Zoom. That's why I held virtual Shabbats, as well as an online Rosh Hashanah and Passover Seder. Each Friday, the elderly could enjoy Jewish life and ignore the world outside. JDC is my support, especially now. They are vital at this time, and I feel so much gratitude for what they've done. They're a part of our big Jewish community. And when I light Shabbat candles, I thank God that we are alive and that everything feels all right. I noticed recently that every Shabbat, the air raid sirens never go off. Never.
Light our candles for us. Would you like candles? I invite you to consider the lights that people have lit for you, the offerings in communities that have existed before you and held you in times of need, as well as the things you have brought, the gifts you have given. Sometimes it's not the big ones, sometimes it's the golden hair that makes for someone's day. So as we kindle these lights, we're going to light 3 candles instead of 2. We reserve the extra candle for the Jews of Ukraine, those without light and fuel, for whom rolling blackouts have darkened their cities and towns. As we light this candle, may we commit to taking action for these Jews and for all Ukrainians, delivering them the life-saving help and support they need to endure these difficult times. Match or so you press that. Nope, there you go. It's not charged. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. I invite you to wish somebody a Shabbat Shalom sitting near you, and make sure you know the names of the community members near to you. We're going to continue with our prayer service, turning to the Chatzi Kaddish. Page 15, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. Yitkada v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Ma Yivrach Yirteh V'yamlich Malchuteh Echon Uvyom Echon Ufayed Echol Beit Yisrael Bagala Bagala Uvizman Kari V'Meru Amen Yehei Shmeira V'Milora Le'olam Le'omaya Yitbarach Yitbarach Le'ishtabach V'yitbar V'yidromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Dekudesha Richu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damira Melma Imeru Amen. Turning to page 16, inviting each other home into this sanctuary of prayer and of community as we read the texts of the original sanctuary. I invite some of you to be the call, some of you to be the response. Don't leave me up here all by myself is what I'm really saying. Okay, so ready? You are the first Baruch Hu, and you are the second. Lynn, very good. Baruch Hu, dear one, Shekhinah, holy name. When I call on the light of my soul, I come home. Baruch Hu, dear one, Shekhinah, holy name. When I call on the light of my soul, I come home. You may be seated. As we enter this section of the service, we're entering what's called the Shema and her blessings. It's a journey that starts with that call Baruch Hu and goes all the way to Hashivenu, and it's a story that the rabbis wrote about the arc of the universe and the arc of history. And it's a story that is centered on the idea of the Shema, on the oneness at the heart of all of it. And the rabbis tell a story that starts in creation. It continues through acts of love and revelation. It is, as I said, sort of the peak is the Shema. And then we continue with the V'ahavta, with acts of human love, with redemption and safety and security for all. I always think of the quote that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice, as I am praying this journey that the rabbis gave us 2,000 years ago. And as I said, it starts in creation. And I want to invite the next text up onto our screen. I'm going to read this. The only reason I'm reading it is because I'm mic'd, but I would rather hear from you than me, so jump on in if you have a question. Exodus 25, so we're just same chapter a little bit later in the Torah portion that we were reading. They've listed all of the items that they're going to want for the sanctuary, the mikdash, and then they're going to build. They're now on the list of things they're going to build with those items. Make 2 cherubim of gold. Make them hammered work at the 2 ends of the cover. Make 1 cherub at one end and the other cherub at the other end. Of 1 piece of the cover shall you make of the candelabra, where God explains to Moses what it's supposed to look like. And Moses goes down the mountain or goes to the people and goes, wait, I didn't get it. And turns around and goes back to God and said, I forgot. Happens 3 times. God finally loses God's patience and throws the gold in the fire, and the menorah comes out. There's another version of it where God says, well, that's why I appointed an artisan, because you're not going to get it. I mean, so I think in general, yes, I agree, Amy. The directions, while incredibly specific and long, not all that clear about what it's supposed to look like. Oh, so we've got some pictures here for those of us who are typing on our phones. Annie, tell me what you were saying.
Well, I just, this as a client, can't live with a picture. Describe to them what they're supposed to do, they're like,
I don't get it.
It wasn't written by an artist.
Okay. Right. Not written by an architect, obviously given to people who are not good at following directions. What else do we have about this? You notice anything about these cherubim? You have to know what a cherub is. What's a cherub? It's probably an angel-ish thing. Probably has wings, probably has a body not exactly human. Rashi says it has the face of a child. Think of all those medieval angels with the little cherubic faces, right? That's where we're getting it from.
Well, the word never got translated, because we used cherub.
To mean cherub.
Yeah.
Yes. It's incredibly unhelpful.
My theory is that it's actually a Canaanite fiction of probably a bull with wings.
A what with wings?
A
bull with wings.
Yes, that's exactly what
Right.
it is.
So it's probably an ancient symbol or Canaanite deity, right? And they have wings, right? And Rashi, who's 1,000 years later, so take it or leave it as your suggestion, says, and childlike faces, but probably some kind of human-like features despite the wings. What else do you notice about them? What's their job? What do they do? Protect. Who said that? They protect. What are they protecting?
Pact, the ark.
The pact and the ark. What's the pact? The word of God. So the holiest thing in there, right? We're coming down off of Sinai, right? Got the pact. We've got a sanctuary that we're building around it. And we're.
it hasn't given you, I
But
haven't given you the pact.
it hasn't given you the pact yet, right? And so this pact, which I'm gonna give you, right, is gonna be protected by these cherubim who are and it's gonna be in an ark, right? Again, not doing things in the right order. This is why the rabbis say there's no before or after in the Torah, because you can't make sense of it if you try to read it straight, okay? So they have these two things that are protecting it, and they're symbols of power, as Beth says, right? They're symbols of power, and they're protecting the holiest thing we've got. Yeah.
I can't help wondering why God cares what it looks like in this excruciating level.
Excruciating, I love it. That is a good question. And there is a whole system of thought. There are two divergent systems of thought in Judaism, that this text can be the basis for there is no allowance for creativity and invention in Judaism, or that things are incredibly unclear and really left into human hands. And both, I think, can be equally argued from this kind of text. But people are really fond of whatever kind of thing they're practicing, rooting it in, look, all the directions are there, I'm just following directions, or do you have any idea what this says? Me neither, so I'm gonna create an ark and figure it out, right? Although there is a rule, you're never allowed to create one of these, just so you know. So if you're building your own ark, I think you're okay, but not one of those.
So this is my theory about all this elaborate specification for the tabernacle. It occurs after the golden tablets. And I think that God or Moses realized that these people that are going to not give them some big private lot and basically busy work. Occupied, they're going to get us in trouble. So I thought it was just mediation. It's like writing on the board 100 times, like not idolatry.
I will not do idolatry. I will not do idolatry. I will build this ark for you. Right. Right. So there is a theory that the Mishkan isn't necessary until we mess it up, and it is necessary, right? That it's for human need, not for God's need, and that the reason we create these structures has nothing to do with God and everything to do with our inability to stay focused, right, on that. Chris, did I see your hand?
Yeah, so I had a slightly different take, which is that yes, God is concerned about us, what we need, but what we need is somebody to settle what would otherwise be endless disputes about. So what are we going to put on? Where are we going to put this back? What are we going to put on it? How are we going to decorate the sanctuary? You can imagine a committee meeting, right?
The house committee of the ancient Israelites would have been, just a bear. Absolutely. This is God just trying to get out of the house committee meetings, right? Don't tell the house committee I said that, President, please. Right. So, right, this is perhaps what it takes to get a society to start functioning, which is a basic set of guidelines and agreed upon norms to say, yes, this is who we are, and no, that's not who we are. And if you read it that way, that's not so, this could make you a little mashugana, as my grandmother would have said. It means crazy, right? But if it's just, this is the parameters, right, that our society needs in order to become a functioning or a cohesive group. And this is the thing that is the center of our group. We just wrote a new mission statement for our community. There was a word in there that was just in and out and in and out and in and out. And you could have gone through endless committee meetings. It didn't make it, so I can't tell you which word because it's not there. But it is true that it mattered because the mission statement represents the community, both to us and to the outside world, and says, this is who we are. And on some level, if the arc of the pact, right, is this is who we are. Look at this. We still have a visual representation of that pact up there in many a sanctuary, right? Then the cherubim are some sort of demarcation that say, this is how we respect or treat or approach or protect the limits of who we are, the things that define us, right? Did I see some comments, Aaron?
I have a slightly different.
See, I like it.
For one thing, we know that this Torah isn't a timeline. So this wasn't actually written down just before they started building it. So I think the detail is meant not for it, because we're going to build this. It's to locate everybody, feel it in a village. It doesn't matter that each of us will have a different village. We all know we're imagining from the same words. So it doesn't matter that it's, we don't know what cherub is exactly, because we each make our own picture now, but we all know we're working on the same text.
So this creates this focal point for the community, whether or not it's actually ever built. But it creates the focal point that is the bouncing off place for the rest of the society there. Yeah, Melissa.
Just two thoughts.
By the way, I'm making the tech team crazy because I won't stand still.
But, so somebody had to know, some idea what they look like, but I also think like logistically, must have taken a lot of people to figure out the engineering of how much gold do you need, how big is this thing? How much do you need to cover the ark, and how much gold do you need to make these cherubs with wings on them? I mean, that's a lot of logistics to sort out.
So I love that because that harkens back to the beginning part where everybody's bringing something, right? And I was thinking in physical terms, everybody's bringing a piece of goat hair or dolphin skin or whatever. But you're talking about what it takes to actually build this. And I was thinking on the way over of multiple intelligences, right? And the many that I don't have. And the many that I am lucky enough to carry with me, right? And how they interact with the world around me. And I think this begs that question again, and it comes back to that gifts of your heart, and this question of what are you bringing, not just physical, but spiritual or intellectual. What are you bringing that builds this, right? How much gold do you need? I guarantee you do not want me to weigh it. Whatever it is, that should not be my job in this situation. But I might sit next to the person weighing it and have a really lovely conversation, right? So what is it that you bring so that the system here is functioning? And I think there's something in this text that gets to just that question, Melissa. So the cherubim are supposed to face, right? Why are they supposed to face one another? And can I have the next slide? There is an idea that represents the relationships between people and the relationships between the people of Israel and God. And there are even some midrashim that say the cherubs turn depending on if we're being nice to each other or not. Yeah, exactly. They're on a pivot, which is another engineering feature I couldn't do. But that's how important it is that you turn to face one another in the innermost sanctuary. And this letter from Birmingham jail, this excerpt of it, is actually, it quotes a bunch of different, both midrashim that lead to later Jewish thinkers, as well as Christian thinkers on this text. And so I wanted to bring it tonight as we prepare to say that Shema, as we prepare to call out that unity and turn towards it. To turn towards each other as well. So this is a letter from Birmingham jail, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., 1963. All segregation statutes are unjust because segregation distorts the soul and damages the personality. It gives the segregator a false sense of superiority and the segregated a false sense of inferiority. Segregation, to use the terminology of the Jewish philosopher Martin Buber, substitutes an I-it relationship for an I-thou relationship and ends up relegating persons to the status of things. Hence, segregation is not only politically, economically, and sociologically unsound, it is morally wrong and sinful. Paul Tillich has said that sin is separation. Is not segregation an existential expression of man's tragic separation, his awful estrangement, his terrible sinfulness? Thus it is that I can urge men to obey the 1954 decision of the Supreme Court, for it is morally right and I can urge them to disobey segregation ordinances, for they are morally wrong. I invite you to rise and body your spirit for the Shema. As we invite ourselves to consider what it means to face one another and see the unity behind all life. The bottom of page 17. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. You may be seated. We'll continue with the Ve'ahavta, those acts of human love in response to that unity. Put your finger in page 20. We'll chant the first paragraph of page 18 and then move directly to the second paragraph of page 20. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levacha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom ha'levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartavam v'shivtecha b'beitecha Uv'lektecha v'derech, uv'shachpecha uv'kumecha, uk'shartam leot al yadecha, v'hayu l'totafot b'einecha, u'chlavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'yisharecha. Leman tizkeru v'asitem kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti echem me'eretz Mitzrayim v'liyot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Page 22. A journey that the rabbis imagined for us, centered on our facing each other. I'm calling an audible, Dan, just so you know. We're going to read the right-hand side of page 22 together. The shelter me with peace. I imagine your presence as the gracious, majestic, rich green canopy of a tree, stretching upward, outward, with me nestled quietly against the sturdy trunk, resting on sweet-smelling leaves and soft moss. Keep me dry from the rains of sadness. Give me from the cold winds of doubt. Protect me from the darkness of the unknown, so that I may rise and venture forth and touch your world. Your sacred breath whisks me away, oh, but the purest presence in me. Angel wings brush my face. Watch over me as a parent peers on a sleeping child. Your presence I feel, soft, sheltering, strong, cradling me to safety. Your canopy over me, under me, surrounding me, sheltering me with. On the top of page 25, prepare to say the words that ask us to have the words to enter the Amidah. Adonai Sifatai Tiftach, Adonai, open my mouth that I may declare your glory, is the literal translation. I've always loved when Beth says, Adonai, give me the ability to pray, right? I love it, and then I always get down in the rabbit hole of my brain of, well, what does it mean to pray? Right? What are we doing when each of us rises? The way we do it in the congregation here is we do the first 3 blessings together in community, and then we take our own time for prayer, and some people pray the words of the tradition, and some don't. And I think part of what you're doing in that time can be shaped by why you think we built that Mishkan. And some of you already started playing with the question of why. Is it to define us, as Aaron said, and sort of set the parameters? Is it because we get ourselves into trouble? Because, without something to do, well, like my kids, they'll find something to do, right? What is it that we do, which I think in some ways is also the question that I get most frequently from our B'nai Mitzvah students. Why are we doing this? They like to say it in that tone of voice. Like, why are we praying? Sometimes they really shock me and say, I don't believe in God. And, ooh, I never met a Jewish person who doesn't believe in God, right? Like, okay, we're okay. So, so why are we doing this, right? And I think this final verse is an invitation for us to consider why we do this, why we come, however often we come, to be in Jewish community, why we find ourselves marking time and life cycle in ways that are noticeably distinct from how the larger American culture marks time and life cycle. And even down to the level of, what does it mean when I say, and then continue with your own prayers? So this final verse that we're going to study together might shape our experience as we enter the Amidah. And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. What stands out to you? An amazingly short sentence. Annie.
The word sanctuary
Mm-hmm.
and the idea of
Say it. The idea, so sanctuary and the idea of dwelling among us. Okay, so tell us more about sanctuary and then dwelling among us. And just so you know, I have to repeat what you say because I have a note that says I have to repeat what you say.
stand up, I can't talk loud unless I'm standing up.
Yeah.
So a sanctuary is a place that is safe and where you can rest. And among us, reminds me of the God that I believe in, the same God heart. So it's a place where you can enter into, I vow, and when we have that relationship, that's God, that's the
So sanctuary indicates a place of rest, and that rest is it defined by connection or is tell me? It's defined by non-transactional interaction. So it requires other people.
Yes.
And it is defined by the presence of holiness, the Shekhinah, is available when that non-transactional interaction is occurring. And so what does that mean? Dan, do you mind going back a slide for me? If it says, and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them, can you put that together for me and what this means for you?
Well, I think it goes back to our Judaism. Judaism means system. My personal spiritual traditional view, very orthodox view of what holiness is with God. But to me, that's what it is. We come here together as a community, not just be there for each other, be there for each other, but also because we are trying to be more holy and have that effect on the world. I was rereading today Colin, which I held the road to all of that. And for me, that's sort of the epitome of what is that for the rest. It means why you should care, why that should be action. And so it's all of that. This is fuel for the action.
So this is the place where you come for fuel for the action. And in part, you're improving yourself. And in part, you're improving the world around you as a result of the kinds of changes that are happening internally while you're in this place of growth.
You can't do it without all of you.
But you can't do it alone. Right, so you need the sanctuary as the place to bring people together in a way that is not defined by the transaction. Right, so the sanctuary becomes the engine that heals when it enables growth in the individual. So that's more.
I think the idea of a God who wants to dwell among the people is absolutely revolutionary. Right? This isn't a God that wants to sort of look on from on high and hold public service. This is a God who wants to be in the room.
Do you want to say any more about what that is for you, or?
It sort of comes with both a lot of responsibility, but also a lot of sort of positive. So high support and high expectations.
So the God who dwells among people offers high support and high expectations in the daily living of life, right? So it's not just this that matters, it's the mundane day-to-day that is this God. Beautiful, yeah.
So, if a person is looking for sanctuary, they're the one that's undergone trauma and ill things. So, if God's asking for sanctuary, that's like what's happened to God, and God needs to have sanctuary. God has to have something in common. Obviously, this is all metaphorical.
It is all metaphorical, but I love what you're talking about because one of the big things of the rabbinic God is that God goes into exile with the people, right? So this God who's living in the daily is not a God free from trauma because the world isn't free from trauma. This God is a God who is accompanying each person and the people of Israel on their journey. And that implies, I think you're right, when an experience for the divine that is less than what we think of as divine, right?
It's all that there are images of God praying and God crying. And God experiences emotional experience. And Hashem talks about it too, that God is looking for us. So, it's I'm not just looking for words here, it's subject to the translation, the actual movements.
But it's pretty close. This one's not so. You guys sing this one, the Asuli Mikdash, right? Make me a temple so that I can dwell among them. It's one of the few that you could say. It'd be hard to translate it differently.
The sanctuary is specifically a place where the person is occupying is safe.
In our definition.
Okay, so that's a.
So it's Mikdash is set apart or holy, right? It's Kadesh, right? Susan, you and I were talking about studying those roots that connect Hebrew to Hebrew, right? It's Kadesh. It's a set apart place. So I don't think you're wrong in thinking that sanctuary is set apart and safe. I'm not sure. I don't know if you could declare sanctuary in the ancient world the way you sort of can nowadays. But it's an interesting question, and one we could do some research into.
So I'm struck by the first words, protect that building. Clearly, God could make their own sanctuary. They could make a very grand sanctuary. So, yeah. That's what's risk.
It requires human action, right? For whatever this dwelling among them means, whether it's this holy, after the ecstasy laundry kind of thing, or whether it's or whether it's whether it's holy connection, right, or the improvement of a soul, or the building of a more just world, whatever it is, God seems to want to be involved, but is entirely dependent on human action. And I think I'm going to leave you with that as we turn to the words of the Amidah. Because whatever you do in the Amidah, whatever is your practice, I think this week's portion is an invitation for us to consider why we enter this space of prayer and how we use it in a way to give us sanctuary, to give us rest, to enable us to connect, to find the holy in the mundane. Whatever it is for you, I think it's an invitation for us not to be rote about it, but to sink into it with it. So I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we turn to this Amidah. We'll do the first 3 blessings in community, and then continue with our own private prayers and reflections. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agit tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu, Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El HaGadol, HaGibor, HaNorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Hasdei Avot V'imahot, U'mevi Gula L'bnei Bneihem, L'man Shemo B'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Hakol, Tarav Lehoshia. Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei Hakol Berachamim Rabim. Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim. Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melech, melech memid, mechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman taleh hachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom ya'alelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
as we mark the 1-year anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, the Misha Berach, we will pray this evening when the world is sick, can't no one be well, invites us to consider all the places where peace and healing and wholeness are needed in this world. You are joining us in our digital community, and you want to add the name of your loved ones who you are praying for into our prayers. We invite you to use the chat function of the technology you're using to join us. I'll name those on our healing list and then invite each of you here in the sanctuary if you'd like to say the names of those you are praying for. This week, we pray for the healing of Eliza Sterngeier, Pat Urich, Peter Feynman, Alina Clayman, Sue Gum and Nan Owens, Diana Sanders, Kaylee Cassis and Baby Zay, Alan and Joanne Travis, Marianne Demers, Sonal Starr, Ayelet Bat Chava Vahersh Muel, Debbie Gilman, Neil Daniels Midman, Anya Kabel, Sue Boardman, Sarah Kianowski, Debbie Sachs-Buteau, Stanley Roth, and Kathy Nat. You are praying for somebody and would like to say their name. I invite you to raise your hand, and when I indicate towards you, add their name into our community of prayer.
Carol, Peggy Shaw,
And Merrill Ray Cohen.
My mother, Molly Logan.
Sing these words together, holding all those named in our heart, holding all those who are in need of healing in this broken world. When the world is sick, can no one be well? And I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can no one be well? And I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. Ana elna rifana la, Ana elna rifana la, Ana elna rifana la, Ana elna rifana la. We continue with Oseh Shalom. May the one who makes peace above make peace on us, on all the world. Page 31. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Imru, Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael. We turn to page 40 in our prayer books. As we end each service together, we remember. We remember those whose lives touched ours, those whose legacy lives on in us. If you are joining us digitally and would like to add the name of someone you are remembering, I invite you to use the chat function to add their name into our sanctuary of prayer. We are in the period of Shloshim for Lois Lineal, for Marty Nass. It is the yard site for Laura Foster, Rebecca's sister, Rebecca Coley's sister. In this year, we remember Ken Blumberg, Janet Candell, Henry Wolfson, Erwin Lebo, Helen Fine, Wynn Musgrave, Sue McHugh, Bob Roxon, and Duffy Brodsky. If there is someone you are remembering whose name you'd like to say aloud in our sanctuary, I invite you to raise your hand so you can say their name. We turn to page 40 for the words that have been sanctified by time, by the thousands of generations, the hundreds of generations, but use them to help them remember. Together we say these words in community. I invite you to rise and embody your spirit. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'amei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dikshasha b'rihu le'ela minkol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'miram ve'oma v'imru amen. 44. I gave you the wrong page number. I apologize. You're going to be on the second to bottom paragraph. Yehei Shlomo Rabbah bin Shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for us, for all Israel. We pray especially for all who dwell on earth, as we say, Amen. You may be seated. It is a quiet weekend. For the rest of the weekend, there is Torah study happening tomorrow. If you need information on how to access it, Aaron is your man.
It's down in the link is in the directory.
You don't have to bother Aaron anymore. But you are most welcome, I am sure. Any other announcements from the community? Oh yes, I'm so sorry. Schmooze. It's indoors, right?
Indoors.
Okay. The last one was outdoors, right? So, okay.
It's supposed to be cold tomorrow.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to check. Come schmooze your heart away. Other announcements?
This is hot off press.
Oh.
The Network for Social Justice
yes.
is having an honor and kind of event as a fundraiser in March, and Beth Levin is one of the honorees. It's a fundraiser, so you have to pay to go to it.
Yes, but if you'd like to be part of honoring Beth and her work at healing the world and our Winchester community in particular. She's being honored among other amazing women associated with this Winchester town of ours. And so we invite you to get more information. We'll figure out how to get it to you.
It's gonna be a Rebecca solicited outside email the network said, or what, the word gets out.
Wait till Shir Tikvah descends on them.
What's the date? It might be the 11th of March. I mean, if you go to this, the networks, I'll just figure out how to get it to Michael.
Yeah, we'll get it in the newsletter. We'll get it in the weekly.
Yeah, no, it's not something. Oh, this is March, yes. I sent it to Michael.
A well-earned honor by Beth, and we are so excited to have her recognized in that way, and we look forward to having her back next week. The question I want to leave you with was one brought to me by some of the teachings this week. What are the angels that are protecting you? What are those cherubim? Who are they facing? What are they covering? What angels can you bring with you into the rest of this Shabbos? Whose angel are you? I'll meet you downstairs for Kiddush and Motzi. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. The Lord is kind of sharp.